Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Around the Lens. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, a visual journalist with about 16 years of experience, currently living in Charleston, South Carolina.
Hi, and I'm your co-host, Zach D. Roberts. I'm a photojournalist who works in New York and sometimes in Alaska. I've worked for BBC, The Guardian, but most recently I've been working on a documentary called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy.
You've been working on that that documentary for a while, Zach. How's it going?
Well, it happened. Well, it's coming out September, so.
Okay, great,
Yep.
great. We'll look forward to that. Around the Lens is a live, weekly visual journalism roundtable show airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are broadcasting live this June 6, 2016. The show features experts in the world of visual journalism gathering to discuss news, topics, and gear related to our career field. We focus primarily on photojournalism and documentary filmmaking. You can like our page on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes or Google Play or your podcatcher of choice. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe while you're here. Finally, if you'd like to support us financially and get early access to our bonus topic each week, drop us $1 on Patreon. Anyways, we've got a great show for you tonight, and we've got two great panelists. Our panelists this week are actually one returning panelist, Jamie Rose, and our newcomer, Michelle McLoughlin. Ladies, why don't you go and introduce yourselves in the order I said your names?
You didn't tell us what order we were going to be. My name is Jamie Rose. I am the co-owner of Momenta Group. We have Momenta Workshops as one of our division that teaches documentary photojournalism. Our team is currently in South Africa right now, and I'm stuck in the office, but I at least get to talk with you guys, so that makes it better. And we have Momenta Creative, which is a creative services division that works predominantly with nonprofit organizations doing visual creative services for them.
Cool, cool. Yeah, well, the last time we had you on was episode 16. What's happened in the interim? Anything interesting? Anything crazy?
Gosh, I think since then we've, with Momenta Workshops, we've done Project LA, which is working with nonprofits, and we did Project New Orleans, which is working with nonprofits in the lovely city of the Big Easy. And now our team is out in South Africa, and this summer we have our next year's lineup that's going to be announced very shortly with a couple of new additions that we are super excited about. And cool. It's probably causing a number of gray hairs that you're seeing on your screen.
Don't worry, the resolution is so low on my end, I can see. I mean, honestly, it's like just kind of like a smudge. You know,
we can always edit it in post anyway, so don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, we'll add the gray hairs in post, no problem.
Wait, no, remove.
Thanks, guys.
Remove. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can just use mine.
And our second panelist, Michelle, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Michelle McLoughlin. I'm a New Haven-based photojournalist. I do work with Reuters and the Wall Street Journal and a bunch of other clients. And I just returned from working in Nepal for 3 months, working on a personal project, and can't wait to get back there in a couple of months. And
cool.
I'm the former chair of the Northern Shore course. I just stepped down from that. That's how a lot of people know me. And still the programming chair for that, too.
Nice, nice. I love the Northern Shore course. I went there, oh gosh, it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago now, but it was awesome. It was, I think, held in Raritan, New Jersey the year I went. And it was just a great experience, a lot of great different panels and classes and whatnot. If you're listening and you haven't been, go to it. I think the MPPA sponsors it, right? It's the MPPA's. Mm-hmm.
You got to come back because we've made a lot of changes over the last few years with, it used to be the first 2 days workshops, the third day was all speakers, and now we've changed that up. You start each day with a speaker, end each day with a speaker, workshops in between, and really tightened up the faculty and really bringing in just top-notch people for everything, including Jamie Rose many times.
Nice. What year, when is it this year, or where is it taking place?
This year, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking. Oh, we're going back to Fairfax, Virginia. We're actually skipping Rhode Island this year and going back to Fairfax, and it's the first week of March, I believe. Sorry, I haven't been here since the contract was signed.
Okay.
So I think it's the first weekend in March. I'll double check that while we're still here, though.
Yeah,
is the next one going to be in Nepal?
That's what I'm planning.
Okay, excellent.
Well,
Flight cost is going to be kind of a killer.
Not for me.
Oh, well, yeah.
if they decide they want to do a panel on visual journalism, we'd be happy to do a live show there.
Yep.
We're all about that. All right. Well, we got a lot of great news to talk about this week, a lot of good topics to talk about, so let's get on with the show. Our first topic this week is all about Instagram. Now, I'll be honest with you. Had I seen this topic maybe 1 or 2 months ago, I would have just glossed right over it because at the time, I didn't care at all about Instagram. It really didn't have any factor in my life. But obviously, since starting this show and also just knowing the importance of social media, I've really become much more invested in. I've had an Instagram account since pretty much it came out, but I never really used it. And with the show, it's like now I can see the importance of it. I'm trying to build followers and all that stuff. Anyways, they unveiled some new plans with their business profiles, and they adjusted their algorithms and stuff like that. I'm not really the algorithm thing is all about how they're moving different photos based on not chronologically, but based on, I guess, popularity or something like that. And then the other one is like business tools. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really care about the algorithm thing, but the business tools kind of interest me. But in general, how does Instagram affect you and your career and what you do, and what do you think of these changes? Michelle, you're first because you're a newcomer.
Great. Well, I'm going to be really honest. I love Instagram. I don't use it that often. I'm just very lazy about posting my own stuff to it. I look at it all the time. I'm following a lot of people on it. Like I follow, searches for wherever I am. So the change doesn't affect me because I'm just not posting on a daily basis. But when I looked at what all the changes are, I mean, they're just basically mirroring what they did with Facebook. We all went through this with when they changed the news feed, and then you had your top news, and then everybody freaked out, and they put most recent back. And if you have a business page, you're already seeing all the analytics that they're now going to offer on Instagram. So it just makes sense that this was going to happen. And I think especially for businesses, for events, for groups, it makes sense to be able to see that stuff. And you just got to figure out how to get your stuff into that algorithm correctly. And
I'm definitely thinking about moving around the lens into a business page. I don't see why I wouldn't.
Yeah, because especially, if you have a Facebook page and everything else, it's just going to incorporate. It seems like the two should just work pretty seamlessly together with your moving everything between the two and looking at your stats on both.
So it makes sense considering Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
So. How about over at Momenta? What do they think about the Instagram changes? Are you guys tracking this? Is it going to affect, I don't know, your followers or what you do with Instagram as Momenta?
I feel like the changes are wait and see at this point because the pay-to-play model is happening on every social media page, and really, except for like LO, I think.
Yeah.
They're the only ones out there who aren't embracing that, which would be amazing. If everyone just like picked up their suitcases and went over to LO and we were able to go over there and share portfolios, I think that would be, incredibly disruptive. However, it's
Can
just
you even Can you even get an LO page? I thought that was still like you had to know somebody who knows somebody to get an LO page.
I think it's like Blink, the network for photographers where you can invite people in via Blink. But if you'd like to be a member of LO, I think I can invite you in because I am.
Please, absolutely. We need to get that around the lens foothold.
Yes, everywhere.
But the thing I like about that particular model of what they have is it's really creative. It's less about like the look at me model of social media that the pay to play model is done with Facebook and Twitter and now Instagram. And it's much more about the ability to search for creative inspiration, which I think is completely lost in social media right now. And Instagram is like that. I think there's definitely some of this whole like every time I comment on someone and now I see 50 of their photos in the feed and Instagram it starts to become a little less about creative exploration and more about conversations among people who already know each other.
Yeah.
I think if they can make it sortable, like what Michelle was saying about Facebook, if you can sort the information and decide where the user has control, first of all, I think that's going to be incredibly valuable to advertisers. At Momenta, we would definitely like to know that. What do people want to look at? I mean, we don't want to bombard people with advertisements for stuff that they don't want to do. But if you really want to learn a one-day business skills workshop intensively about how to market to nonprofits, I want to give you that information. If you want to go to South Africa and work with nonprofit organizations and use your photography as a force of change, I want to know that information. But as an advertiser who, you know, would be looking at either one of these social media platforms, I want to know what the user wants, not what the, you know, coders in Silicon Valley want you to know.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it. Actually, this change is really going to affect how we use Around the Lens, because honestly, I use it primarily to promote shows. So, you know, like I posted a post today about this show today in order to remind people that we have a post or a show today. If now they're going to change it to where my posts are showing up all left, right, and center, like why is a post from 3 weeks ago, you know, for episode 20 or something, going to show up now? It's not going to do me any good, really. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to affect what we do with Instagram in the future. I think
that goes back to the whole thing about where they're going to end up having to do what Facebook eventually did and bring back the I can look at it both ways. You know, I can look at the most recent, I can look at the top stories. Yeah. You know,
it's just a switch. Just make it a switch you can toggle. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
Well, what I would like is even levels. Is that, you know, because right now Facebook and a lot of these different sites give you the option, I don't want to see this at all, I want to see this less, or you can basically just let the feed, you know, once you start commenting on someone's feed, you just see everything that they post.
Right.
And what I'd love to have is like a, you know, 10, 20, 30% or something, some way of scaling it, like basically helping the algorithm of Facebook or Instagram help itself. Like, let me give you more information on what you'd like or what I'd like to see, so that I can see what I freaking want to see, as opposed to now, you know, it's just kind of what the crowd wants to see is what you end up seeing, and you know, that's not always what I want to see.
And I'd be afraid to see what the algorithm comes back with if they base it on my searches.
Yeah, no.
As journalists, we know we search for a lot of strange things, and I'm like, I'm a little frightening.
Oh my God!
I bet the algorithm's going to find out what you're looking at by analyzing the picture, and then show you similar things with similar pictures. So, like, say you look at a picture of a car, and now you're going to get nothing but the cars in your feed. You're like, do you want to follow this car? Instagram.
Well, what I've seen, and obviously this is probably before the switch, I can't tell, because I haven't seen any change whatsoever in my number of likes, you know, who's commenting on stuff or whatever. But for me, one of the big problems is obviously, you know, I cover a lot of political events, and you hashtag with whatever the hashtags are, whether it be hashtag Make America Great Again or hashtag Feel the Burn, just to get people to look at things. And then you get that onslaught of that entire crowd, and then that filters into what you get to see as well. So I mean, like, I have now, like, half of my feed is Donald Trump supporters on the kind of the general feed, not the people I follow, obviously. But obviously that's not really my game. And so that's a little bit irritating, and it's something I'd like to see at least some kind of control over, to be, you know. So I don't, you know, whether it be like Google, when you get, you know, the cookies just feed in, and suddenly, you know, I work as an investigative researcher as well. So, you know, like the last week, I spent my entire week researching nothing but nativist Republicans and anti-immigrant, you know, racists and stuff like that. So now my Facebook or ads come up with Donald Trump ads and all these different things, and I'm like, you're just wasting money. You're wasting other people's money by, I'm never going to click on a Donald Trump ad. I'm never going to buy that Make America Great hat, except for the one I have right there. You know, so it's something that I think advertisers need as well, is more actual information of what we want to see. Because I mean, I think other than ELO, I think we kind of need to concede that the only way that these things continue existing is if they either we pay a monthly fee, or we basically give everyone your data for advertising. It's your choice. Personally, I would love to pay $5.99 for Facebook a month and just not have any ads, but I know everybody else doesn't think that. So.
Yeah, I remember that big the fake Facebook Gold controversy that was floating around. And I was like, okay, whatever. It really impacted me. But I think they've said, equivocally that there will never be a pay-for Facebook version, or at least that's their intent. And honestly, they don't have to. They're making so much money. I mean, what was like 1.5 billion users now, I think, on Facebook or something crazy like that. And then you go back and you look at like when the Facebook movie came out, and it was touting 500 million users, as like in their trailers and stuff. So it's crazy how fast things evolve. But anyways, any last thoughts on Instagram before we move on? No? Great. Okay. Let's talk about equipment. We're not talking gear yet. We haven't gotten to that portion. No, we're talking about equipment, specifically computers and cameras. There was a neat article from F-Stoppers talking about, what do we need? What's more important, a cutting-edge computer or a cutting-edge camera? And the basic sort of conceit of the article, or the, I guess, opinion piece, was essentially that, you want a good computer first. Because if you have a slow computer and you're trying to process high-quality, high-resolution images, you're not getting anywhere with those. And honestly, I don't disagree with that. I've always sort of been of the philosophy where it's like, if I can, I upgrade both at the same time. So I got a new camera that can shoot 4K, and I got a new computer that can handle 4K, and that was kind of like what I did. But, what do you guys do? Do you upgrade the computer first, or the camera first, or the same time? What's your process? Let's start with you, Jamie.
Did
I catch you off guard there? Would you like me to go to Zach?
I shoot. Well, okay, this is going to be, relevant later because I'm not going to be able to participate in the next question because I shoot Leicas, so I don't need to upgrade them all the time. I have the beautiful M series that shoots video that's gorgeous and shoots stills that are beautiful, and I don't really need to upgrade the lenses. I will say anecdotally, I went to the Northern Short course and I was doing portfolio reviews one time with this girl who had a story she was working on this like immigrant family, and they had adopted 2 kids or something. It was like this incredible story, and her pictures were so horrible, and not because of the framing, the composition, anything like that, like gorgeous moments. However, they were so grainy, like beyond acceptable, like no grain surgery application could be done to fix these things. And I asked her, like, what are you shooting with? And so I pull it into Photo Mechanic and I look at her like f-stops, and they're all like 5.6, f8, inside, in the dark, with people with dark skin, like impossible. And I said, why are you shooting at such a high aperture? You really just pull that puppy down to like 2.8. She's like, oh, I only have the kit lenses. And I'm looking at her computer, which is a brand new 17-inch MacBook Pro that has like the Retina screen and everything. And I was like, why do you have a brand new computer?
Buy a
and your lenses are made of plastic.
Buy a plastic 51.8. It's so cheap. Like you can buy it for $50. I will find that woman and I will sell her mine for $40 right now, just so she has something else.
She was crushed, and the thing that just absolutely blew me away was her. She said, well, my professor told me that my computer was too slow for me to be able to process stuff because I had a like 13-inch, and he told me that I wasn't supposed to, be editing on such a small screen. I wanted to be like, oh my God, back when dinosaurs roamed the world, that was the biggest laptop size you could get.
And if her camera is that bad, the files are really small, the 13 can handle it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a problem.
God.
But I will say, like, when it comes to upgrading gear, I always, like, I do on my Facebook page every once in a while a poll of the week, and I'll just ask people, like, different questions, and I said, what should I do? Brand new MacBook Air or MacBook Pro? And everybody got into a huge discussion about should you just add more memory to your MacBook Pro and get the best that you can get with the highest amount of RAM and all that other good stuff. And at the end of the day, like, people spend so much time futzing with their gear that like the camera is the one that you shoot with the most. Except your iPhone, because that's ridiculous. But like the camera that you use is the camera that you should be focused on. And if your computer can do your processing, I guess it's different too because I don't do video, and I know that like you guys are now all primarily doing video production. And for those people, yeah, like absolutely, you need the fastest thing possible because that's hours of your life. But I feel like upgrading the camera gear and then using gear that's going to be around for a really long time and making that investment count instead of just buying cheap so you buy often. That would be the advice I'd give. Michelle?
I'm the same way. I upgrade when I have to. I mean, I just upgraded my computer before I left because I felt that I needed to. It was maxed out, and I needed a little bit more because I was going to be doing a lot more video over there. But my cameras and lenses, if they're working, I keep them in good condition. I get them serviced. I get them cleaned. If I'm not having a problem with them, I don't see a need to upgrade them. You know, I'm shooting with 5D Mark IIIs, and they work fine for me. They work great. You know, they do what I need. I know the camera so well. I can, you know, make any changes in the dark. So why am I going to go and get the newest thing when it's at the highest price? If I wait another year, prices are going to come down. I don't have to walk the street and go, oh, look, I just got the brand new camera and this, that, and the other. I don't care as long as it's a quality piece of gear.
And you could just buy the 5D Mark IV camera strap when that comes out. It would look like you have the latest gear.
That's the first thing that does not go on a camera.
And then you cover the actual name with tape, and nobody knows.
But you know.
Actually,
you know.
I can't wait for the 5D Mark IV. I hear it's coming out in August. I really hope that is true because I need to upgrade for my 5D Mark II. But
can I say something though? I also think that the gear question comes down to like what Michelle was saying. How do you treat your gear? Like I was at the company. It's kind of a joke, but there was a year that I was banned from technology because I had my iPhone stolen on a workshop, and when I came back later on that summer, I dumped a cup of coffee down my laptop. So my business partner banned me from technology, and I had to go back to using my BlackBerry for like 6 months or something like that. This was a while ago. But the new laptop that I got, I instantly bought one of those plastic covers for it. I have a plastic screen that is, like a plastic keyboard cover. I make sure that, I take really good care of it. I don't just carry it around and, run up and down stairs with it. I try to make sure that it's actually being, really well taken care of. And I know a lot of photographers beat the hell out of their gear, and then they complain about, like, I can't believe this Canon camera sucks so hard. And it's like, well, try not dropping it on the ground all the time, and it might work a little bit better.
I had CPS yell at me one time when I brought my gear in for cleaning. He said, "You own cats." I'm like, yes. He goes, "You need to put your gear away. Do not leave it out of a bag ever." I'm like, oops, sorry. So it started being a little bit better about, because I'm self-employed. I pay for my gear. I pay for my insurance. I pay for my cleanings.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you on, you don't need to have the best of the best if you're shooting just stills. I think definitely where it comes into play is video, because my last computer, it just chugged when I was shooting, trying to edit 1080p. So I didn't want that same experience when I upgraded to 4K, which is why I went with, top of the line MacBook Pro, 15-inch, pretty much the most expensive thing I could buy, just because I knew it was going to be an expensive investment up front, but I couldn't deal with slow or crashy video editing, and that was what I was moving more forward. So, with camera equipment, I don't really see the need. I definitely feel personally computer equipment is more important to upgrade, just because the camera equipment, like I said, I still use the 5D Mark II. It's a perfectly fine camera if you take good care of it. Don't see the need to upgrade that. And plus, if you're just shooting stills, you're good. It's something that I could even use my old computer if I was just shooting stills to edit with. But with the video, I mean, Zach, you shoot more video than I do with all your documentaries and stuff. How about you? What are you on with the computer?
I don't. I mean, currently, I'm looking at getting a 4K video camera, but currently I personally don't see the need for it. It's kind of one of those, like, I guess everybody's kind of shooting it now, so I guess I'll get that. But I personally like the way in my experience, I like the way that 1080p looks better. Most of the cameras that shoot DSLRs that shoot 1080p better than a 4K video camera. So it's one of my it's almost everything for me is personal preferences for gear wise. Like I buy nothing new. I buy everything used. Either at Adorama or wherever else. To me it's like the used car rule. Like I'll buy the D500 maybe if I decide I want a third camera. In 6 to 8 months, once people have turned it in to the used department at these places, so I get a immediate 30% or 40% discount just because someone else touched it and took photos with it, and it's not prime in the box. So I mean, like, so overall, when it comes to the whole, which one or which, I still try not to spend too much money on my laptops, but unfortunately I'm with Apple now, and Apple's decided that you're going to spend tons of money if you're a professional, especially on my good laptop right now, which has a whopping 128 gigs of space in it now since they've moved to solid state, which at Apple solid state costs 50 times more than it does anywhere else. But if I move to PC, then I'll probably be a lot more apt to upgrade. I mean, the big problem with the Apple computers is you're buying an entire new computer now, as opposed to on my last 13-inch MacBook, which by the way I always edit on 13-inch MacBooks because I get to carry them. I have to carry them around. That's, to me, it was like anyone who carries around a 15-inch MacBook and is a actual like working photojournalist is insane. I mean, it's just the idea of lugging an extra pound and a half or whatever around with you, to me, is just stupid. And that's, for me, for gear, it comes down to what's easiest, Yeah.
I think it also comes down to like how also we'll learn every single thing about, the new Photoshop or social media or whatever, but how do you actually take care of your computer? Like I have Onyx that does cleanings all the time. I make sure that, I'm constantly scrubbing it. I download everything onto our server, so I don't have just a ton of junk sitting on my laptop when it's out in the field. Like, taking care of the actual technology and the cameras as well. Like, it boggles my brain that people spend like $5,000 on a computer, and yet they'll use like the crappiest SD cards in it. Like, I got this one for like $10. It's like, well,
256 gigabytes for $10? I'll take that.
Like I was shooting one time, and I the Leicas shoot like huge files when you're shooting them raw, and I'm shooting these like gigantic DNG files, and I was like, what is wrong with this camera? Like, it is so slow. And I realized that I had an audio card, like one of the crappy audio cards that I have, that I had put that in, and I pulled it out, and I'm totally gonna shill right now, but I don't care because I totally believe in them. I realized, I don't have a PNY card in here. So I took one of the PNY Extreme Pros, put it in. I was like, click, click, click. There we go. Okay, I'm shooting now. Like, that's the way that I think everybody needs to remember how they're supposed to use their gear. Don't, like, go cheap on one side. And
use their money, too.
Over.
That's really important. The difference between most people will go, I mean, I used to work at B&H Photo Video, and people would come in, my camera's really slow, or this is processing slow, and I'm like, what's the memory card you're using? Or what's the lens you're using? I mean, like the woman that you were talking about, like if she actually can get a kit lens 18 to 55 or an 18 to 135 if it's Nikon or something, is actually more expensive than the 50-1.8. Right. Or get a manual old 35 millimeter or something like that, so she can shoot inside, or get a 1.4, a manual something. She could save so much money, and people just go, well, what's that? I think that's one of the reasons why camera bodies are so, people will spend the money on it, and computers, because it's, I got the new MacBook 15-inch, 17-inch Pro thing with so much memory, I get to say that. But, an actual, like the good lens, nobody knows the difference between 17 to 35, 2.8, and maybe, a 24 to 120 f4. There's a huge freaking difference, and there's also a big difference price-wise, But yeah, anyway, sorry, cut you off.
But I mean, that makes you buy quality stuff. For most of us, we buy quality stuff from the beginning, and just take care of it. I don't understand people that have to lust after every single new piece of gear that comes out, and oh my God, every new camera they got to be on pre-order. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then you complain that you're broke.
Well, and not only
That
that, your
reminds me.
pictures
Let me
look
check
exactly
to see if the
the same.
5D Mark IV is on pre-order.
But like, I remember shooting one time, and I was in Africa, and I was on assignment, and I was just creatively stuck. Like, I'd been photographing at this hospital for 4 weeks straight, and my roommate said to me, "Well, what are you shooting on exactly?" And I was like, whatever digital Canon I had at the time. And he said, "How long have you had that camera?" And I said, "I don't know, like 4 years." And like, "Is that the only thing you shoot on anymore?" And I said, "Yeah." And I think I was complaining because I said, I feel like my work in grad school was like so much more creative than what I've been doing lately. And he was like, "Well, when you were in grad school, you were probably still shooting film. You probably shot 2 1/4. You were shooting with Holgas. You were shooting with, medium format, 35 millimeter, Tri-X versus Fujichrome or whatever. Like, you had a lot of variety in your life, and now you're shooting with the same gear all the time." And people look at Annie Flanagan, who's one of our instructors. If you haven't seen her work, it's phenomenal. Annie shoots with like disposable cameras. She buys like crappy old Polaroids from the like thrift store and doesn't even try to clean them up or anything. And they'd make these like really weird, grainy, amazing pictures. And it's because she chooses lots and lots and lots of different gear, and she just doesn't feel like spending the money for the latest gadgets because she can make creative art without it. So I think we all get a little bit too wrapped up in the Kardashian world of buy.
Yeah, I think there's a YouTube channel or something where people buy these extremely inexpensive old Russian lenses and just produce, the most pristine imagery out of it. Because obviously they're photographers who know what they're doing and they know how to work the equipment, and usually you're dealing with a decent sensor as well, so that helps.
Yeah.
But
there's also that great. It makes me think of there's I can't remember the name of the host, but there's a video show on YouTube that they take professional photographers and give them the worst camera they possibly can find, and basically say you have to take 12 images or whatever your best 12 images, and they'll buy the Barbie camera, and like they give it to like Joe McNally level guys, like they're just like, what are we doing? And like the work that they produce is they actually talk to them usually afterwards, and they're like, it made me do this because it only is able to take, the flash only works once, so I can only take one flash and do that, so it's always interesting. It's like I've definitely gotten into a rut. I got to shoot starting film again because I've had my 2D600s and the same lenses too for the while, and I have no justification to spend any money on anything. I have everything I need to do my work. But I have also like six or eight really great old film cameras that perfectly function that I just never use. So like that's where I need to where I need to spend money is I need to buy like a boatload of film and just have fun again. But
film. I don't know if my computer is good enough to process film. I don't have the chemicals or anything for that. I mean, I'll try.
I miss the Zen darkroom though. I mean, just the like 15 minutes of like I'm just gonna sit here and swish, wait, swish, wait, think about something other than whatever was popping up on my phone at the time. Like that was nice. I don't have 30 minutes anymore where I get to just sit and think.
My brother-in-law just put a darkroom in their house.
Wow.
So I'm waiting to go down and use it. I'm like, oh shoot, now I gotta pull out my film cameras.
You know what you can do?
Negatives.
Just buy like a red light bulb and put that in your closet, and then get like some fixer, or some other smells, and then bam, right there, dark room without any of the mess.
Yep.
Oh, but it was so great to have fixer all over your clothes in college.
Oh yeah.
You just smell like you would just come from a Dow chemical company because you were you didn't use the gloves, of course, to like mix it.
Remember the stuff to remove fixer from clothes that smelled like rotten eggs?
Yeah.
Best.
I gotta get Mark Johnson back on here, and he can talk about boiling fixer and boiling chemicals to get that. production.
I used to miss when I went to SU for our art photography. I missed the arc of the film, the students, because I've been working with film since I was freshman in high school. We had a really good photo department in my high school, thank God. Watching the arc of the people who would have the gloves on, use the tongs, the whole thing, and then by the end of the semester, they're like, like lifting up the prints by the corner. They don't care anymore. You know, like that's one thing I like really miss is just like, you know, it was more of a culture because you'd hang out in the darkroom lab. You know, now you try to go even when I was in college and you try to work in a computer lab, everybody has headphones on and everyone's like that looking at their screen and there's no communication. And you know, I felt like even back with film, there's a lot more there's a lot more like just discussion, you know.
Yeah. Friday night, we just put a 12-pack of beer in the wash and cooked on bread.
I don't even, like, I feel like, you know, my sister and I made this rule when we were kids that we wouldn't tell our parents the stories that they didn't want to know until we were financially stable. And then, like, there was suddenly this, like, rush of stories that came at them. Really? I never knew that. I kind of feel that way about the Syracuse darkroom because they gave the TAs, the grad students, TAs, keys, and then the military photojournalism program had keys to the computer lab, and we didn't. And so there was, like, a lot of exchange of bourbon and illegally copying CDs, you know, from each other. Like, yeah.
What year was this?
Yeah.
Know that.
Wait, when we were all there, I was there. What, 2001, 2002, 2003? Wait, what did I?
I can't tell those stories until David Sutherland retires.
David, oh my God.
He'll be so disappointed in me. Like, everyone else has moved on. Bruce Strong came in and he made it, you know, nice and respectable, and everybody.
I would think that, I don't know if you guys had Laura Heyman. She came after or what, but Laura Heyman would probably have joined us. So.
Well, we're gonna have you and David on the show, Jamie, and we're gonna do just a confessional, just an hour of confessions. That's all it's gonna be.
I have
get it all out on the table.
On that one, you must understand that we are getting Mark Dolan involved in this.
Oh,
we're gonna get Chad McNeely in there. We're gonna get Brian Aho. There are a lot of people who are going to be in this chatter with us because I'm not taking the fall.
It'll be like a Syracuse reunion show.
I'm just 45 minutes away from the college, so I can just head down there and get everybody on one camera feed, and we can all sit there. If I'm allowed back in, I'm not quite sure. But
Bruce Strong would burn down that building if he found out some of the stuff that we did after hours.
Oh my gosh! Well, we should probably move on before we incriminate ourselves. So I know we just spent the last 10 or 20 minutes or so talking about gear, but we're going to keep it going. And we're going to talk about the D500 specifically. Now I know, of course, you know, Zach is our resident Nikon user. I could care less about Nikon, but, you know, I think the D500 is a neat camera. You know, it's kind of like a baby D5, and I think if you're on a budget, you get a lot of the same great features that the D5 has with just, I guess, some slightly slower shutter speeds or something. I don't even really know what the difference is, but there's a great review on Petapixel from a wildlife photographer who was talking about how he used the D500, and I thought that was really well done in terms of just giving you an idea of, you know, the quality of the camera. But, you know, again, I know we just spent, 15, 20 minutes talking about how equipment doesn't matter this, or you can get anything out of that, you know, low cost equipment, but what do you guys think of the D500? Is it a camera you would use? Do you use Nikon equipment? Is it a camera you're even interested in? And if not, what camera are you interested in that isn't coming out yet or isn't out yet? What's new and great that you want to get your hands on? Let's start with you, Zach, since you're the resident Nikon guy. What do you think of the D500? You think you can get that?
I again, you know, I'm the guy that waits a year before anything because I never see that much of a purpose. Of buying it like out of box. I mean, like I will never pay. I've never paid, and I will never pay $2,000 for a camera body. Just won't. Which is why I never will be a Leica person, by the way. I just can't. I know it's gorgeous. I completely and totally give you guys all the Leica people out there. Completely give it to you. I can't do it. I'd rather take $1,000 and of that price point and go to Hong Kong, go to somewhere. But maybe if I start making a ton of money, I'll reconsider. But I love the specs. I love everything. I've been thinking about getting a crop sensor again because I got rid of my two D7000s to trade up to my 600s, and because I'm covering Donald Trump rallies actually is one of the reasons why I would like a crop sensor to get that little extra boost of the 1/3 boost on your lens. And that's basically it, pretty much. And I mean, I guess the file size hasn't really changed too much. It looks like they've kind of upped it to what it used to be. So that's the biggest reason. If it drops down to $1,000, I'd probably pick up one. But obviously that'll be a while. So.
Yeah, I think I was just looking at the 5D Mark III new is only $2,000, and that thing's been out for like 5 years or so.
Nikon is atrocious with their and it's one of the reasons why Canon continually. I'm again working at B&H. Like I continually see, it would be very difficult for me to sell Nikon cameras back when they had like the D90 was out and it had all these had some limitations or whatever, and then like basically the new price point versus the used price point of like the 5D Mark II were so similar that I'd be like, you probably should just start with a Canon and get a full frame if you're willing to spend $1,400. And so if people were, if you're ever open to used, I never understand why you'd spend $2,000 on a crop sensor camera. I hate to say that, even with these specs are great, but get a 5D Mark II. Hell, I mean the D600s are selling for like $1,000 now. Get that. It doesn't shoot 4K, but you're gonna have to spend $2,000 to upgrade your MacBook just so it's able to process 4K video. So if you got a ton of money, I guess go for it. But
definitely. Now, I know you said, Jamie, you'd have no dog to fight in this topic of conversation, but is there anything you'd like to add about Nikon cameras or Canon cameras or Leica cameras?
Well, before Leica, I was a Canon shooter, and I think the Mark system is just amazing. I mean, even like Zach, you were saying, the older bodies are really great, and if you're shooting stills, that's where I feel like you probably can do with an older camera. The glass, I think, is really important. I think having that beautiful L series glass for Canons is great, and that lasts far longer than the bodies themselves. I really can't be picky. I mean, I have a gorgeous camera setup, so I really love the Leica Q. It's a really fun little point and shoot camera. So that's a really fun one. And the only reason why I would want that is because my husband is obsessed with that, and so he would stop using the company M's, and I could use those exclusively, and then he could have the Q. But Michelle, do you shoot Canon?
Well, it's funny actually. I do shoot Canon
on your shelf. So.
And after just saying that I don't upgrade my gear very often, I'm making my final decision in the next couple of weeks if I'm switching to Nikon.
Wow.
I have the Nikon as they sent me that to bring to Nepal with me. And so I spoke to
lens is breaking news.
Love the 750. What else can I try? So they're going to send me a couple other bodies to try. But after talking to them about the 500, I'm like, ooh, it actually sounds really kind of fun. And one of the things that really is drawing me to that is the Bluetooth. The fact that you don't have to use the Wi-Fi to move, and allegedly the Bluetooth uses a lot less battery. So on Spot News, and just push it right out. Get those 1 or 2 images out to keep the editors at bay. And that, I mean, I think that's a huge thing in the editorial field, especially, anybody that's shooting a lot of Spot News. It helps not having to sit down, pull out your card, pull out your reader, pull out your camera and everything, your computer. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of really nice sounding stuff about it. I had a long talk with Nikon about it, and what they're telling me, it sounds like a great camera. I haven't had it in my hands yet. So.
Hey, before you switch to Nikon and make that life choice, have you told your parents yet? That's a big decision to come out as a Nikon user. After being a Canon user, you know.
It's a huge. Well, I started in photography as a Nikon user shooting f3s.
Nice.
And so now I'm like,
FM2 right here.
Wow.
I had one of those too. Yeah, I still have two f3s in the living room. And
Nice.
so it's like coming full circle, you know. I'd be coming home again.
Oh. Well, you know, you can get an adapter so you can keep your Canon glass and use a Nikon camera. You know, so you don't have to get all new glass if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm ready for new glass at some point.
Yeah.
You know, so because it has. I mean, I do keep my lenses a very long time. So
Yeah.
It's kind of why the decision now: do I replace the lenses or do I just do the switch? So.
Yeah, I gotta make a decision here. My 24 to 105 Canon lens is not working any longer on my Canon camera, so I gotta go send that off to Nikon or Canon and get that repaired, or not do that. I don't know. I mean, I don't use my Canon equipment nearly as much as I used to because I'm relying more on the Panasonic equipment. But if Canon does come out with the 1D Mark IV, I will be justified in getting my lens repaired and using that camera as my primary shooter. You know, right now, I'm happy with my Panasonic, so never thought I'd say that. I thought I'd be Canon or Nikon for life, but I jumped on the Sony Alpha 100, whatever the first camera Sony made when it went to DSLRs. I bought that because I really love the fact that it had the vibration removing the dust on the sensor. Because I can't tell you, that was such a pain in the butt, you know, like 6 years ago, when none of the cameras had any of that vibration reduction, or not vibration reduction, you know, the sensor cleaning when you turn on the camera. Now all the cameras do it, but that was the big thing back in the day. But I don't know if I'd ever switch to Nikon at this point. I mean, I love Nikon. I've used the D4, D4S. I think the D5 is probably a beautiful camera, but I don't know. I mean, 3 minutes for 4K footage doesn't really appeal to me.
The video is a concern, and that's, you know, I need to play with the cameras more because that is one of the biggest concerns. But
does that limitation exist as well in the D500, the 4K 3-minute limit, or is that just a D5 limitation? I think the D500 can shoot 4K.
The 500 can shoot 4K. I don't know if that's a limitation.
I've not seen anywhere where it states that there's a limitation on the length, other than the kind of normal 20. At least Nikon has 20. I think 20 minutes. Yeah. Which I forget. Canon's a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Video. Like
I believe it's 29 minutes or something like that.
Minutes, yeah.
29 minutes, 59 seconds.
I feel like we need a pro service person on call for these questions. Like, we need to call out Chad McNeely at Nikon and like somebody over at Canon Pro Services.
Probably valid.
Answer this question.
Well, I'm reading B&H's specs right now, and it says video clip length 3840 by 2160 is 30 frames per second, 29 minutes and 59 seconds now. So they upped it to the game, which is fantastic. That would be great. I wish the D600s had that. At least the clip length, not the 4K per se, but.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, any of these things, I would throw a shout out for the Facebook group, which is online. I think it's called Online Photo Swap Meet or something like that. Look up Photo Swap Meet on Facebook. It's a private group. You have to actually like ask to be in it, but it's a great place to sell gear or find gear that other photographers are selling, because you can talk to them about how, is this super abused, or was this like your working lens? Is this a specialty lens that you just kept in a bag? And people are really cool about it. I've bought like donkey bags from people off of there and stuff. So it's a pretty great place if you want to get rid of your gear or find new gear.
Cool.
There's a lot of people like Michelle who might be switching and just selling like whole kits, which is really kind of fun to be like, ooh, like Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I think, swap meets or used stores or B&H used, I think used equipment is great. Definitely, if you have the, if you don't mind waiting, go get the used stuff. I mean, I'm more of the, I want the new stuff right now kind of guy, but yeah, used all the way. All right. Well, I think D500 is a positive, and we'll see where people get theirs. So, Zach, you could always get Michelle's when she upgrades to the D600 in 5 years.
Just mail it on over. I'll shoot you my address.
No problem.
The other reason why I just can't see in the future, I finally got NPS status. So now that I finally got that, just as I was waiting for it, I was like, maybe I should switch to the Sony system because my back is killing me carrying all this gear. And then I got accepted for it, and I'm like, okay, done. I'm a Nikon person for life now. Get
Do
the
you have
tattoo.
to apply for NPS status?
Well, you have to prove that you have a whole thing. You have to have someone
Sponsor.
recommended you. You have to sponsor. Luckily, my buddy C.S. Muncie got in before me. Yeah.
Wow.
But the problem is that now I don't want to mess with any of my lenses because like there's a couple lenses that have come out in other systems, not Sony, but Sigma, and I would probably sell one lens to get another one, but then that potentially changes my status. So right now, I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that. I also have to put in for try to get some lens or camera or something like that for the conventions because I got accepted for that. So hopefully they'll have a representation there. But anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I did Canon Professional Services back in the day, and that was something you paid for, right? You got paid for this membership, right?
CPS,
Yeah.
the basic level is free.
Okay.
And now they have basic is free, and then there's gold, platinum. There's a few paid levels.
Okay. I remember
And
back
gold
when I
was
did.
like $100 a year. It's so cheap.
I know you got like some free camera Nikon, like some free lens cleanings or something like that, or whatever. It was probably about 10 years ago. I got a book out of it, and I never even used any of the vouchers, so I don't know. But I was thinking about it for my lens repair job I might have to do.
It's worth it with Canon for the $100 because you still get the free cleans, and then you get a discount on the any repairs and expedited shipping, and they pay for the shipping and all that. So it is worth it. And that's a concern about switching to Nikon, is I hear their service is not that quick.
Ruh-roh.
Canon, you can get that stuff turned around in 48 hours.
Oh my gosh.
In and back.
My understanding is you're looking at like a week with Nikon stuff, just between shipping and then them actually doing it. But yeah, which is why I haven't gotten anything fixed lately. I've actually been working enough that I have no time to move something.
Right.
I actually have the gold ring on my 17 to 35 actually popped off. So which is why, by the way, another gaffer's tape, always your friend. Always have some with you.
You know what? That's a good thing because my red ring actually came off of my Canon lens, the one that's broken. Yeah. So, and put some gaffer tape on it, and it'll be fixed. It'll be just
fixed.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get on with the as I like to call them, the eye catchers, or used to be the picks of the week, but now I call them eye catchers because I want to be different. So, eye catchers are something that caught your eye this week, or something interesting, or a resource, or a news story, or whatever you want to share with the group. So why don't we go ahead with you, Jamie? You go first. What's your eye catcher this week?
My eye catcher was popular with the panelists, I guess. It is Hannah Lee Latte did which I think I'm mispronouncing her last name. She did this great photo series for the Washington Post, like a before and after shot of dog toys, and it's hilarious. Like, it's whimsical and it's awesome, and I think in today's news cycle it's necessary to look at things like that. So kudos to her, and kudos to the Washington Post for publishing that, because that's just awesome.
Excellent. I think the pictures are really well done, and when you see the difference, it's crazy.
Oh, the octopus is so great. It's just so sad.
It's always great when they have like funny photo topics and stuff like that. You don't see those very often. Michelle, what's your pick this week?
Mine's definitely a little more serious. I actually picked Paula Bronstein has a new book coming out in about a week, and I typically won't pick somebody's book, but since I literally ran into her randomly on a street in Kathmandu, so she has a new book coming out, Afghanistan Between Hope and Fear, and I'm really excited to see it. A little sad after the news this week, obviously, but it should be an amazing book. She has been working there for almost 15 years, and it's not a combat book, which that's part of what intrigues me about when it comes out, she focused a lot more on daily life and women. And having watched her work, I really want to hear the stories behind the images, because, you know, I've known her for a long time and known her work for so long, but actually seeing her work in Kathmandu, I was like, oh wow, okay, you're kind of interesting. You're, you know, she's her own breed, and but consistently puts out really top-notch stuff. So I'm really psyched for her to see this come to fruition.
Great, great. We'll definitely look forward to that. Zach, what's up for you?
So mine is actually not a particularly photographic oriented one, but the Trump orders surrogates to intensify criticism of judges and journalists, which if you've covered any Trump rallies at all, and you're in the jail, as we call it, or the pit, where the photographers are allowed to shoot from, you know that halfway through his speech, every single speech, he goes out. Yeah, watch out for the like it has autoplay video. But he calls basically on everyone. He starts his little attack on journalists and the videographers that are there, and then he calls basically on his fans to turn around and scream at the journalists that are working in the pit. I have some video of it that I took at a Connecticut rally, and I was just sending it over to somebody I'm working with and rewatching it, and it's just like you have 3,000 people screaming and yelling terrible things at you, and it's like it's not always something outside of maybe even like not even in protest scenarios, whether you're covering Black Lives Matter or any of these protests, you usually don't get large crowds threatening you in some way as a journalist, and it's interesting that he's just completely committed to this. So it's just one of those.
At every rally?
Every single rally I've ever been to, he does it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He
talks about. When do they sucker punch the media? Is that afterwards? The procession of sucker punching?
I mean, it's Trump rally is the only rally that I have only event actually that I've ever covered where a press person actually physically put their hand on me and pushed me out of an area. And that was the only one that happened. I've seen a lot worse happen to other people who dare to do it. I mean, we've seen the guy lifted up by Trump's, I forget whether it was Secret Service or private security, and thrown down on a table. Before it was Chris Anderson was.
Chris Morris.
Chris Morris. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting where this goes to, especially now that a lot of the Trump protesters, at least in like Southern California, and I guess in Chicago as well, have been kind of striking back. So it's going to be an interesting election season. Let's just say that. As for photographers who have to physically be, in the middle of the stuff, writers, can watch from a spot kind of far away, but we have to physically be, especially if you're shooting with a wide-angle lens, you have to be really close. And
just get a 2 converter and a 500mm lens, and you're good.
Shoot everything
that thing from your
on a
room.
Telescope and whatever. No, I mean, like I just never thought that I'd have to, consider bringing my helmet and hell. I mean, I know going to the conventions, I'm bringing my vest, I'm bringing my gas mask and my helmets. Wow. And this is not something I've covered. I covered Bush protests from 2001 on, and it's not something I ever thought that I'd really have to kind of consider.
As an Ohioan.
What's that?
As someone from Ohio, are you genuinely concerned with do you really think you need a bulletproof vest to go to Cleveland?
Well, with the escalation, the bulletproof vest, if afterwards things go like overnight, I don't think that it's necessarily going to go that way, but Ohio doesn't really have a good record with protesters. But Cleveland in particular, Kent State.
I'm from Kent.
I'm just saying Kent State, but the anniversary was. No, Cleveland police have spent I think like $10 million on riot gear and anti-protest gear. So it's gonna be. I mean, this is gonna probably make Seattle, the Seattle WTO protest look like, a picnic. based on the groups that I know are going to show up. I think Philly's possibly going to be worse though, because basically you're going to have the entire left show up in Philadelphia, which has never been a kind place for protesters or any sort of activist movement, and the police there are not pleasant, based on my experiences and other people. So it's going to be it's both of that 10 days because they're the conventions are both in the same like 10 days. It's going to be an interesting 10 days, let's just say.
All right, great. We'll look forward to hearing how that turns out for you.
Can I just add to what you were saying about the conventions and all that? MPPA and SPJ are doing an event in Cleveland on the June 22nd. It's free, and it's talking about your right to photograph, and they're going to have the public information officer from the Cleveland Police Department there. They're going to have an officer in charge. They're going to have legal defense directors. And a few photographers and editors from the area. So yeah. I think it's planned as a good, and Mickey Osterreicher from MPPA is moderating it. So it sounds like it was brought together to talk about this stuff before it happens.
I mean, they've already openly banned a whole bunch of things that are going to make photographing very interesting. It sounds like, unless you're credentialed, it sounds like tripods are banned. It sounds like bulletproof vests are definitely banned, so I'm not quite sure if I'll even bother bringing mine in. There's a whole list of other things that, like, I think gas masks are also banned, so that'll be interesting working. I mean, luckily I'm credentialed, so hopefully that'll mean something, but I don't have a trust. I covered a Trump rally in Cleveland that wasn't pleasant at all. So I have a little bit of experience of the Trump people there and knowing the protesters that are around there that don't put up with too much crap. So I think just the convergence of the two, and if you have a police department that's not ready to put up with much crap either, then it's going to make for what I'll say is interesting times.
Were you in New York the last time the convention was in Manhattan?
The GOP? Yeah, I was. Yeah. I assume that this time the protest will actually be covered, as opposed to back in 2004 when 400,000 people were in the streets and it didn't get a single major media hit. So. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, we got caught up in a lot of it.
Yeah, no, I know. Including New York City Police Department setting floats on fire. So that was a fun time as well. So that's why I have a mistrust in general. That was one of my first big rallies I ever covered, and I was part of the investigation that police department did. Undercover people dressed as Black Bloc protesters. They actually were the ones. The big controversy was that one of the big protest floats was set on fire, and it actually was the NYPD that did it. Wow. But yeah, so.
Well, I can guarantee that no matter how dangerous your situation is during a protest, it isn't going to be any more dangerous than the situation that Dave Gilkey encountered while he was photographing in Afghanistan. If you weren't aware of this, and this is my pick of the week, Dave Gilkey, an NPR photographer, was killed while doing his job in Afghanistan. Really sad story. I don't know if any of you knew about him or heard about him previously. I didn't myself, but it was always sad when we lose a member of our community. We're not the largest community in the world of I think of our job and our workers. Photojournalists especially are, I think, a elite brand, if you will, or at least a very small subset of the working photographer genre. But he was working in Afghanistan in one of the most dangerous parts of the country, trying to capture this story that, for the most part, honestly, most of us have forgotten. I mean, yes, we have 10,000 American troops in the country still, but in general, we don't hear about what's going on in Afghanistan nearly as much as we used to when, obviously, there was a war going on there. But any thoughts on Dave Gilkey? Anybody know him or worked with him in the past? Yes?
We both have. I think Jamie knew him better than I did, but he spoke for me at the Northern, and we've met a few times. But Jamie, you had a much closer relationship with him, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, we knew each other professionally, and Chip Salmadavia and I are really good friends, and he was best friends with David Gilkey because they had worked together at the Detroit Free Press for their time coming up in the field. And so I got to meet David on a number of occasions with Chip, and he was just a really beautiful human being. And it should be said as well that David and his translator and fellow photographer was killed at the same time. And I think that every journalist who has ever been overseas and had to use a fixer, or even just had a driver who was translating for you and helping you navigate and keeping you safe, and keeping reporters safe who are with you, can appreciate the loss I think that NPR is feeling right now. It's a pretty horrible thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go ahead and end today's show with our plugs. Michelle, would you like to plug something? Or I'm sorry, picks. Plug yourself. Plug yourself. How do people find out more about you?
I guess since I'm really bad about social media, the best way is through my website, McLoughlin Photography, McLoughlin photography.com, or I'm on Facebook. I do have Instagram, and we'll start using it, and I think it's McLoughlin Photo.
I think it is. I think I was looking for you when I was putting. You know what? I had a hard time finding you on Instagram when I was posting this story, so now I know what it is. I'm gonna follow you.
I'm so bad.
Not just on Instagram either. I'm just gonna follow you in general in life.
I need somebody to follow me. Make sure I'm going the right direction.
If you see me behind you, you'll know why.
You're just waiting for me to get rid of my canning gear. That's what it is.
That's right. As soon as you go to Nikon, just drop that stuff over to me. I'll take it off your hands.
Just keep on walking in a straight line, put it behind you, and he'll pick it up as you go by.
It'll be like a CIA drop where she just like puts it at a park bench.
Meet me on the corner of 5th and Main at the trash can.
Oh, it's Michelle McLoughlin. That's my Instagram. It would be my own name.
Well, expect a big follower bump from the Around the Lens podcast. Jamie, how can we learn more about you besides MomentoWorkshops.com or Momento.com?
Well, excitingly, our Instagram feed for Momenta Workshops is we're doing our annual guestagrammers, which is a week where we have different guest posters come on this summer and throughout the fall. So they're alumni and instructors who are posting on our Momenta feed. So that's coming up pretty soon, and it's always amazing work. You should go back into our archive and check out some of the past people who were there, like AJ Shabar from the New York Times, and Ava Russo and Jess Suarez, and just some really beautiful work is on there. So I am very excited for the summer guestagramming to start. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Cool. Zach?
As always, I'm ZD Roberts on Instagram, ZD Roberts on ZDRoberts.com, and you can also find me at AroundTheLens.com, weirdly enough.
Yeah. In case you didn't know, this week Zach was the host because he had the lower third.
Right there, see? I put it on.
Yeah, that makes it official. I guess I'll just let myself out. My lower third doesn't work this week. Sorry, folks, in case you didn't know who I was. But my name is Dave Murphy. You can find me at djmphoto.com, but you can also find me at aroundthelens.com, the website for this place. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, all those Facebook and Instagrams and stuff, you can just go to aroundthelens.com. Find all those links there. I'm not going to bore you with all the addresses and everything. Just go to aroundthelens.com. That's aroundthelens.com. Aroundthelens.com. All right. We'll see you there. I want to thank my guests, panelists this evening, Michelle and Jamie. You've been excellent. We really appreciate you coming on the show and taking your time to do this. For Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, and we're out.